It left me high and dry. I've been going through the ringer. I need you in my life. Time seems crazy. I'm stranded in the desert. This life gets so hot, I need a sip of you, God. 'Cause you're like water when I'm thirsty, yeah. Drink, drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink, drink. Ooh. It's warm down here. It's hard to breathe. It's burning my eyes, Lord. So hard to see. I'm quite parched now. I need a savior. Come quench my thirst, Lord. Because you're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. You're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. You're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. Water for the thirsty, yeah. I drink,
it's like water for the thirsty. Truthfully, our souls parched. You will find them when you seek them with your whole heart. It's so hard to stay consistent through the word I'm reading. 'Cause the time is coming soon when every eye will see him in the clouds above. This is about a love that quenches the thirst. What the world offers is not enough. Taste and see from this fountain spring, you'll be lining up to get a drink. Refreshing ink flowing out of cups. This life they gotta touch to liberate them out of cuffs. The faith is undivided trust created us up out of dust. He's worthy of fresh well of living water for the thirsty. Give her honor the first thing that I'm doing when I'm waking up. It's everlasting life to all who decide to drink
you're
it up.
like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. Like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. Been a hard weekend. It left me high and dry. I've been going through the ringer. I need you in my life. Time seems crazy. I'm stranded in the desert. This life gets so hot, I need a sip of you, God. 'Cause you're like water when I'm thirsty, yeah. Drink, drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink, drink. Ooh. It's warm down here. It's hard to breathe. It's burning my eyes, Lord. So hard to see. I'm quite parched now. I need a savior. Come quench my thirst, Lord. Because you're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. You're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. You're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. Water for the thirsty, yeah. I drink, I drink.
It's like water for the thirsty.
What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Water for the Thirsty, where we are here to talk about the word simply, the word refreshing. Tonight, we have with us our regular crew members, Courtney, Avanique, Z, who we've missed, Kenrick, Bishop Sharika, Jerome, hailing from Trinidad, and Cliff. Welcome, guys. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
Yes,
can.
sir.
that's
What's
what's up.
up?
That's what's up. Welcome. Welcome back, Kenrick, as well. We miss you too. Um, Also with us is the other half of the Hired by God team, brothers Ruben and Andrew. Welcome to you guys.
Thanks.
Tell us a
Thanks,
little bit
sir.
about yourselves and your ministry. We heard from the other guys what they thought about it and how they got started, but we're interested in the other perspectives on what the ministry has meant, what it's been like, and what you guys do. Any one
Okay.
of those that you feel like taking on.
You want to start, Drew?
Yeah, I can definitely start. So, hey, I'm honored that you guys gave us the privilege to join today. I look forward to the conversation. Like Jared said, we are a part of a ministry called Hired by God. It started about a year or so ago during the pandemic. One of my, closest friends, what I call a brother, I guess God inspired him to, just say, hey, let's have a Bible study together, and it just grew and grew. And now it's a weekly thing. So we have a Bible study, and we post it live each and every Saturday at 11. And yeah, it's just been a blessing to me. I feel like I'm still growing and kind of new to the faith. So it's just been it's been a journey, but guys, it's definitely growing me. And I see a lot of changes in my life each and every day and my brothers as well. So that's a little bit about us and what we do.
Yeah. Thanks, Drew. That was awesome. Yeah, it was. It's been a blessing for me as well. We grew up together, and We were going the wrong way for a really long time, and then by the grace of God, finding us and turning us to Him. So we've been, learning and just having real discussions and looking at the scriptures and just wanting to know the truth and walk it out in relationship with God. So it's been awesome to do that with my brothers and with anybody else that comes on. So it's been pretty dope.
That's dope.
Sweet. Thanks, guys. Welcome to the conversation. We're going to dive in as quickly as we can. Today, our conversations will be coming from the books of Mark, Jeremiah, and Psalms. If you're new to us, we're following the Water for the Thirsty Bible reading plan that you can download from the App Store. It's a daily Bible reading plan that takes us through the Bible in a year. We have three sections: a New Testament section, an Old Testament section, and the Psalms and Proverbs. So it's like 4 chapters a day, but you don't have to read all 4. The Old Testament section is chronological, so it kind of brings us through the Bible story of the Old Testament in chronological order. So our Chronicles and Kings time is split up between the prophets. It's an interesting perspective on reading the Bible to make sense of the story that we're reading. And so since the last time we got here, there's some Old Testament stuff that we've read, but mostly our reading is coming from Mark, Jeremiah, and Psalms. And that's where we'll probably have most of our conversation coming from. I do know that Z had a question for us about faith and doubt. But she has 2 questions for us. One about God's will and one about faith and doubt. And I was curious which one you prefer to lead with, Z.
Faith and doubt.
All right. So Z's question coming out of our reading of Mark 9 is, well, Z, go ahead and frame your question.
Okay, so my question was, can faith and doubt coexist? Should they coexist? Because to me, it seems like there is some sort of healthy balance, if you will. I don't want to sound off, but there is some sort of kind of healthy balance because you can't get to one without the other. Like you can't get to belief without doubt. So they would seem like, and for me to believe something, I have to start off somewhere where I'm either doubting it and then going to kind of wanting to believe it and then believing it. So I was just wondering also, and if so, is there a healthy, whether or not so, but is there a healthy dose of like unbelief to have?
Can you tell us a little bit about how you got to that question from Mark 9?
Yes. So this is coming from the story of the guy who's talking about. This is coming from Mark 9, right? Where God heals the little boy, and let's see, from verse 20, around 23, 24. Sorry, I'm just getting over a sinus infection too, so in case y'all don't hear me, don't bear with me. So he said in verse 3, it says, if you can say Jesus, everything is possible for the one who believes, right? Immediately the boy's father exclaimed, I do believe, help me overcome my unbelief. So to me, it's like that guy had to come with whatever unbelief he had, right? And for him to believe, something had to be done to that doubt, or to not even quite eliminate the doubt, but I just feel like well, that's the question. We just end it there.
Oh, okay. Any thoughts on this question, anybody? Can faith and doubt actually coexist?
Yes,
Bishop,
they can.
tell us
I
more
can
about
have
that.
the first example that came to mind. I can have faith in God and doubt that He's going to give me a milli. My ability to believe that God is capable of doing something can be completely separate and independent of my belief in whether or not He's going to do this specific thing for me. Can God raise people from the dead? Yes.
I'm sorry. Start all over.
I said my example was I can have faith in God, but doubt He's going to give me a milli. Like He's not giving me $1 million. I can doubt that So I'm breaking it
42. I
down.
know what maybe is. So
Is that my faith in God can be separate and completely independent of whether or not I believe He will do something specifically for me. I
so
can
you
believe.
slowing down your talk doesn't make it. So
You
what I want to know
need
is
to say it again.
walk me through your statement. Your belief in God meaning what?
Belief in God's greatness, His awesomeness, omnipotence, His omnipresentness, His ability to do anything that He chooses to do.
So God macro.
God macro
All right.
does not
Doesn't go ahead.
to be dependent on God micro in my life specifically.
So I have a question, right? Z, what's the unbelief? Like, what is it that you don't believe in?
Okay. No, it's not that I have unbelief, but I'm wondering if unbelief and doubt are the same thing. Like,
No, and that's where I'm going. See, for example, I can, and God says you can believe anything, right? There's a couple of things that I prefer that I want. It's too early in the day. And I'm like, yeah, He can give those things. His ability to provide these things is not up for discussion. Whether or not He's going to give them to me, given my situation, is where I may have doubt. I've seen Him do it for other people. Here I am, Father. It's me. I don't doubt your capabilities. I might doubt whether or not you express or show those capabilities in my life.
So that's where I want to. So you doubting whether or not he's gonna show them in your life doubts his capabilities.
No, it doesn't. That's like saying, yo, I know my father, Kenrick. Layla can say, I know that my dad can drive me to McDonald's. Is he gonna drive me to McDonald's today, given there's food in the house and Addison just cooked? Probably not. But that doesn't mean that he can't.
Fine, you're right.
So, Z, let's go back to the text, because while Sharika makes a very valid point, I am not sure that is the context in which doubt and belief are being referenced here, in terms of belief in His ability, but more belief and doubt his willingness. At least in this text, but let's see what it is. You said Mark 9?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go
From verse 14.
read from verse 14. Read from, not Z. Courtney, can you read from verse 14?
Yeah, I got you. When they returned to the other disciples, they saw a large crowd surrounding them. And some teachers of religious law were arguing with them. When the crowd saw Jesus, they were overwhelmed with awe, and they ran to greet him. "What is all this arguing about?" Jesus asked. One of the men in the crowd spoke up and said, "Teacher, I brought my son so you could heal him. He is possessed by an evil spirit that won't let him talk. And whenever the spirit seizes him, it throws him violently to the ground. Then he foams at the mouth and grinds his teeth and becomes rigid. So I asked your disciples to cast out the evil spirit, and they couldn't do it." Jesus said to them, "You faithless people, how long must I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring the boy to me." So they brought the boy, but when the evil spirit saw Jesus, it threw the child into a violent convulsion, and he fell to the ground, breathing and foaming at the mouth. "How long has this been happening?" Jesus asked the boy's father. He replied, "Since he was a little boy. The spirit often throws him into the fire or into water, trying to kill him. Have mercy on us and help us if you can." "What do you mean, if I can?" Jesus asked. "Anything is possible if a person believes." The father instantly cried out, "I do believe, but help me overcome my unbelief." When Jesus saw the crowd of onlookers was growing, he rebuked the evil spirit. "Listen, you spirit that makes this boy unable to hear and speak," he said, "I command you to come out of this child and never enter him again." Then the spirit screamed and threw the boy into another violent convulsion and left him. The boy appeared to be dead. A murmur ran through the crowd as people said, "He's dead." But Jesus took him by the hand and helped him to his feet, and he stood up. Afterward, when Jesus was alone in the house with his disciples, they asked him, "Why couldn't we cast out the evil spirit?" Jesus replied, "This kind can be cast out only by prayer."
Sweet.
So, Jared, I think the part that's a little different here is the part where the father of the child says, "If you can," doubting the capability of Christ. In my situation, I don't doubt that you do it. It's whether or not you will do it.
That's interesting because in James chapter 2, they talk about faith and works working together to make a perfect faith. So I believe that the father had faith in the sense that he believed enough to bring his son to Jesus. So I think that that's interesting that at that part of it, he said, "If you can," but he had to have felt that he could because he wouldn't have brought him, right?
Why do you think go ahead, Karen.
Well, no. Go ahead and finish it because I was going to ask you a question. Go ahead.
I was going to ask, why do you think he went to, if he can, Courtney, if he went all the way to bring the child, why is he now backpedaling almost?
He probably doubting because the disciples that didn't or couldn't do it at that point.
Okay.
I also think in that, to add to Courtney's point, I showed up because I heard people's healing, right? And Jesus has been healing and his homies been healing. The homies ain't do it. Perhaps I didn't realize the hierarchy. I'm here because they said they're healing, not necessarily because I have this sovereign nature of who Christ is and all that stuff. I'm at my last, like I have nothing to lose by showing up with my kid.
Right.
So does belief have to go before healing?
No.
Because I guess my question when I read this and as we were going back and forth, like in 24, he was like, "I do believe, help me overcome my unbelief." So I guess my question is, did he really, truly believe? Because if there's still an idea or a consciousness of unbelief, right? Then how much of that do you actually believe?
Right. So
So
I
here's where
guess
I'm at, right? If you're looking at it, like I'm looking at this and trying to figure out like how does this apply to where I am in my life and situations where I've asked God for something or asked for something and it felt like, okay, maybe it's a little bit too much, right? So he brings his kid to the disciples who are supposed to be like, you know, they're next to Jesus. They must have the same anointing, right? So he brings his kid to them and they can't do anything about it. I don't know if it was like an immediate, like I took them to the disciples and then immediately Jesus got on the scene, or if it was just like, maybe a couple days passed or whatever it is. Like even if it was like a couple minutes, a couple hours. But I'm thinking about situations where it just doesn't make any sense. Like it's not, no matter what I do, it's not working. I'm going about it the right way. I'm going about it I'm using my faith and exercising my faith and trying to do the right thing and going about it, but it's still not working out for me. It gets to a certain point where I start asking myself, am I asking for too much? Right? Because it goes back to our last conversation. Sometimes the answer is no, yo. That does definitely put a little bit of doubt in me, but my doubt is not necessarily in God. It's my doubt is in the thing, right? Am I asking for too much? So that's why I was asking Z, like, what are you doubting? Because I don't doubt God. I know that he can provide. He's done it a million times before. But am I asking him for the right thing, or am I approaching this the right way?
so to me, it goes back to the question that Kendrick said to begin with. Like, what is it? If I'm doubting, there is some sort of, to a degree, I'm not believing completely, if that makes sense. So if I'm doubting something, if I'm saying I totally believe in you, God, then I should be, to me, I'm thinking I should be able to believe that you can do anything. However, if you don't do it, that's cool, right? Like the three Hebrew boys say. But to say I believe you, but I doubt it, is, I feel like, is totally different from I believe you and I totally believe that you can do it. However, if you don't do it, you don't do it. But I know that you can do it, period. I believe, and that's it. There's no room for doubt. To me, that's how I was kind of looking at it. But at the same time, I was like, okay, but how can I get to belief if I don't begin with, let me find out if you truly can do this? Because it doesn't just start from, yeah, I believe, that's it, blindly. Like, I can't just do that, right? But I think I was also conflicted too, which led me to my second question, because I was like, well, James also says the two of them can't like, he doesn't want us, he's telling us not to doubt at all, right? When we pray, right? So that's where I think my whole confusion comes in. And I'm like, well, if you believe, you believe. Either you believe or you don't.
Sure.
Well, can I say, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Cliff.
Now, when I read this part of the story, I'm coming from a parent's perspective. If this child has been having this since he was a child, I've probably gone to every possible soothsayer or whatever it is that said that they could do this, they could remove this demon from my child. And I've been met with nothing but disappointment. So now I hear of Jesus and his disciples healing them. And I say, okay, let me try this again. And then I come to what I believe is the right place to come. And the disciples now can't do it. I am starting to develop a little bit of doubt. But here comes the master. So my emotional response is, I believe, because I brought my child to you. I believe that you can do it, but help my unbelief, because I've seen nothing but disappointment. So that's how I looked at that response.
So I guess the question then becomes, is that even belief, or is belief like a sliding scale? Before we answer that question, Charles weighed in the chat to Avanique. He says, it sounds like you're doubting yourself. Is that correct?
So a little bit of yes, a little bit of no, right? My doubt more so is on whatever I'm bringing to God, right? I'm trying to be mindful of my wording. Yes and no, Charles.
Okay.
I think the issue I'm having with this is that Kendrick did it best. We're putting macro and micro together. Belief, it in so many ways is a conviction in something. So are you convicted in God's capabilities, or are you convicted in God's stance on this situation, it being in your favor, and you both acting on the same thing and being in step with each other? The two are not the same.
Well,
But I guess so.
Because,
I guess my
wait,
only.
no, think about it this way, Kevin. When he came, again, I came because I know y'all healing people. And I've heard that this is what y'all doing. So I don't doubt that you can heal folks. But I think Cliff brought up a good point. Whether or not y'all gonna do it for me, whoo, I don't know. Because I've seen it and I've been in line and I've seen other people do it for other people.
But I think that's and I'm kind of getting outside the story, but I think that speaks to the larger picture, right? The larger picture is, if you know macro, that God is, right? And he can do all of these things. And I firmly believe that because of who he is, he can. Whether or not he does it doesn't necessarily change who he is. And so if he doesn't do it, then does that really affect my belief? Because the belief is who he is, and that like he's going to make the best decision for the situation from a macro perspective.
Exactly. I agree with you, because to your point, Z, you just made an interesting point. You said, well, if you don't, Jesus, it's okay. Literally, that sentence is the same thing as me saying, well, there's a possibility that he doesn't, but it's all right. I'm here for it. It's different verbiage with the same meaning.
But is that doubt?
No, it's not doubt.
No, it's not doubt.
It's understanding that I don't always get my way, but that doesn't take away from the omniscient and and the macro of who God is. But so if he gives me everything that I want every single time, that's not how the world works.
Fail.
So quick question, within the context of this passage, which one is being portrayed here? Is it the macro or the micro? You know, like, is he doubting that Jesus has the power to do this, or is he doubting the outcome? I just want to get your perspective.
For me, Drew, when he said, if you can, that felt like doubt in the capability, not necessarily the macro Christ. So it's like, I don't know if you can do it. I'm starting to doubt whether or not it can be done, which is what we're saying. That's a whole different ball game. If you say, I know you can, but will you do it for me?
But I think that it's important, like the text, what was his sentence? I do believe, but help my unbelief, right? Like, it seems to me, right, that the two are kind of coexisting, and he's bringing both of them to God or Jesus, right? So is there value in, I know who you are and I know what you've done for me in the past, help my unbelief? Because
but not even what you've done. He's going based upon what he's heard at this point. It sounds like there hasn't necessarily been an experience with God. Like, he's heard about it. He's seen like people being healed. And I guess it gets back to what we're originally at. At this point, it's like, I've seen people being healed. I've heard about them. Everybody's talking. I'm now bringing my son. To Cliff's point, I've taken him everywhere. I don't know.
I think the two can exist in the same space. I think eventually you get to a point where you recognize that, God, you get to a point where you recognize God has been faithful this time. There's a repeat, right, happening. But I think that bringing it to him means something.
What's the difference between unbelief and doubt?
Belief in general is a confidence thing, according to the definition of belief. It's about confidence in truth, or the existence of something not immediately susceptible or rigorous proof.
Dang. You took that from memory?
Nah, he was
There was
I wanna go to where Z is in terms of understanding the concept, because she asked a couple of powerful questions. Can faith and doubt coexist? And I think Sharika made a valuable point, but a point that kind of comes outside of what I believe is the heart of what Z is asking, even though what Sharika said is very true. I can believe God and be unsure or have questions about his willingness, right? I'm not sure that's what Z is asking about the tension, and that even Avanik is raising about faith and doubt and the relationship between faith and doubt. And I'm not sure that this story helps to bring it out because of the context of the story. So let's go to Luke chapter 1 and read another story, or another two stories. So we'll start with one and then go to the other. Courtney, if you could read from chapter verse 5 to 20. Luke 1, 5 to 20.
Luke 1. Okay. All right. Since many have undertaken to compile an account of the things accomplished.
Sorry, from verse 5. You can read, skip to
Oh,
verse
verse 5. Got you. In the days of Herod, king of Judea, there was a priest named Zachariah of the division of Abijah, and he had a wife from the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. They were both righteous in the sight of God, walking blamelessly in all the commandments and the requirements of the Lord. And yet they had no child, because Elizabeth was infertile, and they were both advanced in years. Now it happened that while he was performing his priestly service before God in the appointed order of his division, according to the custom of the priestly office, he was chosen by lot to enter the temple of the Lord and burn incense. And the whole multitude of the people were in prayer outside at the hour of the incense burnt offering. Now an angel of the Lord appeared to him, standing to the right of the altar of incense. Zachariah was troubled when he saw the angel, and fear gripped him. But the angel said to him, "Do not be afraid, Zachariah, for your prayer has been heard. And your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you shall name him John. You will have joy and gladness, and many will rejoice over his birth. For he will be great in the sight of the Lord, and he will drink no wine or liquor, and he will be filled with the Holy Spirit while still in his mother's womb. And he will turn many of the sons of Israel back to the Lord their God. And it is he who will go as the forerunner before him in the spirit and power of Elijah, to turn the hearts of the fathers back to their children, and the disobedient to the attitude of righteousness, to make ready a people prepared for the Lord." Zachariah said to the angel, "How will I know this? For I'm an old man. My wife is advanced in her years." The angel answered him and said to him, "I am Gabriel, who stands in the presence of God, and I was sent to speak to you and bring you this good news. And behold, you will be silent and unable to speak until the day when these things take place, because you did not believe my words, which will be fulfilled at their proper time."
So, can faith and doubt coexist? And to Z's question, is unbelief the same as doubt? Because here's another scenario of, I guess even in this, Zachariah might be doubting his willingness. I guess not. Yeah, maybe he is doubting his willingness.
Say that again, Jared.
Well, I was piling on, but I was just asking to Z's question, can faith and doubt coexist? Is even Zachariah doubting God's willingness here? Or what is he doubting? Or is there doubt? And is there faith and doubt? And, I guess we from these two stories pull out the concepts of what is faith, what is doubt, what is unbelief? Is unbelief, doubt the same? Are they different? And then kind of put it back together afterwards.
So I think that from the story, Zechariah, the situation doesn't make any sense, right? So I hear you, God. This doesn't really make any sense though. So there is, I think the two are coexisting in this story because it's like,
Does
okay,
he say it doesn't make any sense?
no. I'm not saying he said it doesn't make any sense, but I'm saying the situation does not make any sense.
Okay.
Right? Like I'm old. How?
No,
Make it make sense.
I've always thought this is a bit excessive.
I mean, he said, "How should I know this?" What is that? What kind of question is that? What are we asking there?
My Bible has, "How can I be sure of this?"
Oh,
Yes.
I have, "How shall I know this?"
Because he was like, how could, but the thing is, like, how can I be sure of this? I'm an old man. My wife is old. Like,
it don't make sense.
It.
Before we go before we go on, because of the questions you guys are asking, let's skip a little bit lower in the chapter to verse 26, Courtney. Same chapter, verse 26.
I got you. Now in the 6th month,
26 to 38.
38. Okay. Now in the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent from God to a city in Galilee named Nazareth, to a virgin, betrothed to a man whose name was Joseph, of the descendants of David, and the virgin's name was Mary. And in coming in, he said to her, "Greetings, favored one. The Lord is with you." But she was perplexed at this statement and was pondered what kind of greeting this was. And the angel said to her, "Do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God. And behold, you will conceive in your womb and give birth to a son, and you shall name him Jesus. He will be great and will be called the Son of the Most High, and the Lord God will give him the throne of his father David. And he will reign over the house of Jacob forever, and his kingdom will have no end." But Mary said to the angel, "How will this be, since I am a virgin?" The angel answered and said to her, "The Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. For that reason also, the Holy Child will be called the Son of God. And behold, even your relative Elizabeth herself has conceived a son in her old age, and she who was called infertile is now in her 6th month. For nothing will be impossible with God." And Mary said, "Behold, the Lord's bondservant, may it be done to me according to your word." And the angel departed from her.
So we've had this conversation before.
It's not conventional. It doesn't make any sense.
Two
No,
different.
go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I was just thinking about it, and I was looking at the earlier story in Luke, right? And I'm saying maybe God's holding people more accountable for the more knowledge and education that they have potentially, or because I'm looking at Zechariah, it's talking about him being a Jewish priest. You know, maybe there's more room for doubt. You know, being earlier, just coming to a knowledge, and because it seemed like even when it came in terms of like the Pharisees and stuff, you know, he said, "Y'all don't know this now." You know what I mean? I don't think he would have that same approach if it was someone that was newer in the faith.
Agreed. And I think that's where we landed last time we had this conversation about.
I think that the situation.
I'm gonna push all the way back against that.
Oh my gosh.
I'll push all the way back against that. Because I am going to push back and add this from a adversarial standpoint. I think knowledge creates doubt, because Mary's response was not, "How can I be sure this has happened?" but "How does it actually work?" Right? Those are two different positions.
Yo, I wrote that down, Jared.
No, that's exactly what he was saying.
Zechariah says, "How can I be
essentially what Zechariah was saying?"
No, it's not. Two different things.
Yes, it is. If you read the entire context, he was saying no, like no one, like there's no Viagra, there's none of that. Like we're old.
Jared stole my point. I literally wrote that down. It's two different stands. It's two different and postures. Two different ones.
And you see it because of Gabriel's response. He's like, "Dude, you see an angel standing about in front of you and you asking, how can you be sure?"
That's my
really?
point.
guys.
First of all, we don't know what the angel was look like. Was the same angel that came up to Abraham and was talking to him, and he thought it was regular dudes? Like, come on.
First of all, where was he?
In the
temple, by the altar of incense.
Sanctuary, yeah.
Right, he's in this
Okay.
spot.
Good point.
And he said, "Thy prayer is heard." So he's burning incense for the prayers of everybody.
First of all, you guys are using facts. Stop.
It's two different stands.
So
Mary wanted to know how this is going to play out. Mary's like, yo, what this at, yo? You putting this in here? Am I going to have to sleep? Let me know how I'm supposed to do this. It was like, I'm down. Let me know.
That was the first in vitro?
That's the first in vitro. That's the first artificial insemination that y'all have ever seen. That's it. That's it. She was down. She was riding. She was like, "Yo, I'm down with it. How's it supposed to work? We're supposed to do that. We good money."
And the situations were equally impossible, right?
Right.
She's a virgin and they are old.
Yes.
The contrast is in their response, which then helps us go back to the question that we were talking about faith and doubt.
Is it, well, hold on. Was the contrast in their response or the environment that was created, which ultimately yielded their response? Because the thing is, like, we're talking about environment. Like, we're saying that the reason why it wasn't is because of the fact that Zacharias had an angel standing by him.
So
Like, it wasn't
Mary.
necessarily his response. I don't see a difference in their response.
Mary had the same angel pull up.
I'll say that. I just say that man looks on the outside, God looks at the heart. So God knows our true intention. So what was implied and what wasn't implied, God interpreted. I think we're getting caught up.
The language of both of the language in the dialogue helps to reveal the posture. For example, in Mary's example, verse 34, Luke 1:34, she says, "How will this be since I'm a virgin?" She's trying to figure out, well, how does this work?
How does it work?
Right? And then when the angel explains how it will work, her posture is, "I am the Lord's servant. May it be done according to me, may your word be fulfilled."
We in.
Right?
But essentially, Zachariah said the same thing. He's like, how can I be sure of this? Because I'm an old man and my wife is old. Like, it's the same thing.
No. He didn't ask how. He didn't say, how is this going to work? He said, how can this be? That's a negative. That's a, what are you saying, bro? That's not possible. Versus Mary's
How can I be sure of this?
How can I be sure of this? How can I be sure?
How can I be sure of this?
Right.
Is in contra. Is, oh my gosh,
Right.
what happened?
Yeah.
How can I be
We
sure
can
of
still
this?
hear you.
Is based upon his following statements that I'm an old man.
Mhm.
It's no different.
Isn't it the same thing that Abraham did?
I think both situations are extremely.
I feel like the
And his
angel
wife
wasn't
and his
fair
wife
to-
laughed.
No.
I feel like the angel wasn't fair to Zechariah because when he came to Mary, she asked that same question. The angel took the time to say, "The Holy Spirit will
Did
come
not ask
upon
the
you."
same question.
When he came to Zechariah, he was like, he started telling him about who he said, "How can I be sure about this?" And he starts telling him, "Well, I'm Gabriel. That's not what I asked you. What I asked you is, how can I be sure of this? Explain it to me like how you explained it to Mary, how the Spirit is going to come down."
Look at your son. Look at your son, Z.
Hold on, Z. Is his name Gabrielle or Gabriel? Which was it? A female angel that came?
God, listen to me. I'm African. A's are same thing. Gabriel. Okay.
Nah, Z, for real. There's a difference between, let's see you and your son get up and y'all like, yo, we going to school. And he's like, "Ma, how is that possible? You ain't got no car." Like, versus, "Ma, bet. So how
Who
we
would
getting
ask
there? How we getting there is different than, how is that possible? We ain't got no car."
I think
Can anybody read it?
doubt no matter what the question is, right?
Can somebody read one hold it up the thought avenue? Just somebody find Luke 1:18 in the Message Bible, or
The
what does
message.
NLT say?
Who reading the message? I thought we put
I have. What do you want? Message and what?
Or NLT?
So the message says, Zacharias said to the angel, "Do you expect me to believe this? I am an old man and my wife is an old woman."
Mhm. Now notice what the angel says in verse
That's a
20.
little bit different.
What does the angel say in verse 20?
That's a little bit different.
And what does the angel say in response in verse 20?
But the angel said, "I am Gabriel, the sentinel of God, sent especially to bring you this glad news. But because you won't believe me, you will be unable to say a word until the day of your son's birth. Every word I have spoken to you will come true on time, God's time."
It's not fair. I'm gonna need that dude. I'm gonna need the dude to lead with that introduction. I am Gabriel, sent to you by, like, you lead with that, and then I got you.
Go back to verse 8.
So Message Bible kind of combines all the verses. So I
Sorry,
don't know if
anybody in any other version. We just need to go back to verse 8.
Okay.
I have the amplified. I have the amplified. It says, "Now while on duty, serving as priest before God in the order of his division."
Right. Go into the temple and burn incense. Right? And all the worshipers were outside. Go back
Yeah.
to verse 21. The people were waiting and wondering why he stayed so long in the temple. He's not outside in the courtyard. He's inside behind the curtain where nobody can see him. Ain't no man just getting and walking up inside of there.
Okay.
If somebody walks up inside of there, unconsecrated, they drop down there. That's why they tie a rope to their feet to pull them out.
Which goes to my point, is not necessarily what was said, it's also the environment that he was in. Like, all of that should have spoken to him, to tell him, to inform him of who this is, and more importantly, that who this is, who it will not be.
Right. So remember, we're talking about these questions, and that's why I brought it up. So, can faith and doubt coexist?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think both stories are extremely unconventional, right? It's not adding up. In my human brain, if I'm 80 and you're telling me, "Yo, you're gonna carry your child," how, Slay?
All right.
It's not adding up.
That's just like what Cliff was talking about with Abraham and Sarah.
So
I hear you. It's not making sense though.
Can I ask a question?
Is not doubt though.
Say that again.
Not being able to understand is not doubt.
I think it is.
So have you guys had a situation to where, so let's get out the Bible. So, like, personally, have you had a situation where you've experienced the exact situation where you're like, "God, I believe what you're doing," but you still doubted that it will happen?
Yes, absolutely.
Did it happen?
No.
All right, we're not using you. So anybody?
I got Jared. You know which one came to mind? Shorty in the White, who told me to do all that stuff, and I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Did you believe?
Hell no.
That's unbelief.
No, what I'm saying is I believed that God was going to get me out. When that person came down, I don't know who you are, sis.
I'm pretty sure hell no is unbelief.
This ain't it. I didn't believe her. But I'm still waiting for God to get me out. And I'm like, "Yo, God, get me out. Get me out. Get me out. Get me out." And Jared's like, "Did you do what the person asked you to do?" Hell no, that ain't got nothing to do with God. Get me out. Like, and then here we are. And I refused to do it until I was like, "All right, bet I got nothing to lose."
So, Sharika, you are fast tracking us. I was trying to slow walk us there, but let's fast track to where you are. Let's go to John chapter 20. John chapter 20, verse 24. Courtney, you got that one too?
Yes, sir. What is it? John 20, verse 20. What you said?
John
24?
20, verse 24.
24. Okay.
Mhm.
One of the 12 disciples, Thomas, nicknamed the twin, was not with the others when Jesus came. They told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he replied, "I won't believe it unless I see the nail wounds in his hands, put my fingers onto them, and place my hand into the wound in his side." 8 days later, the disciples were together again, and this time Thomas was with them. The doors were locked, but suddenly, as before, Jesus was standing among them. "Peace be with you," he said. Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and look at my hands. Put your hand into the wound in my side. Don't be faithless any longer. Believe." "My Lord and my God," Thomas exclaimed. Then Jesus told him, "You believe because you have seen me. Blessed are those who believe without seeing me." Keep going.
No, that's fine.
All right.
So one of the challenges that we experience is that English is one of the challenges with English. Sometimes we use English words to represent the ideas that are present in the Greek, and they don't fit exactly, right? Doubt in English means uncertainty. Let's see if I get that definition. A feeling of uncertainty or a lack of conviction, right? That's doubt. This word here that is being used is the Greek. The number is 571. It's apistos. I'm gonna share my screen right quick. I don't know if you can see that there. It's the word apistos, faithless. King James translated faithless, but it means to not believe. It's unbeliever. It's unbelieving. It's more of a refusal to believe, right? And that is the case because this word is also found in the book of Revelation. 22:15.
And you're saying this is the unbelief that he's referring to in Mark?
The word there is apistos. Apistos? Yeah.
Apistos. Okay.
Right? Yeah, and it's from this original word pistos, which is faith. It's the opposite of faith, right? But this word is the same word as hold on. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and find it. I think it's Revelation 22:15, but give me a second. Who's that trying to join?
You said Revelation 22:15?
I think
Yeah, hold on, let me make sure that's the right one.
Jared.
No?
It might be Lorraine.
Oh. It should be have room for her. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Sorry. Revelation 22. Hold on. Let me get the right verse because that's not the right one. All right, so Revelation 21:8. I know I was back there somewhere. Revelation 21:8. Courtney, when you get a chance. All right, read from verse 6.
Who?
Courtney. Revelation 21, verse 6, when you get it.
All right. And he said unto me, "It is done. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give unto him that is athirst of the fountain of the water of life freely."
To 8.
Yeah. Next. "He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. But the fearful and unbelieving, and the abominable, and the murderers, and the whoremongers, and the sorcerers, and idolaters, and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death.
Yeah. That same word for doubting Thomas is the same word as here.
So verse 8, that unbelieving word is the same as Mark 9.
Yes, I'll show you.
Okay.
So this is Revelation 21:8. But the fearful and unbelieving, G 571, apistos. And so it's unfaithful or faithless, without faith. Right? So there's this tie-in, because it's actually the opposite of pistos, which is to believe. So it's the not believing. So it's not doubt or uncertainty, but it's the refusal to believe.
Got you.
And so what you have here is outside are the people who are afraid, the people who refuse to believe, and then all these others. Let's add on one more verse. Everybody knows it. Hebrews 11. Hebrews 11, Courtney, from verse 1.
Okay. Faith shows the reality of what we hope for. It is the evidence of things we cannot see. Through their faith, the people in the days of old earned a good reputation. By faith, we understand that the entire universe was formed at God's command. Yes, sir.
Oh, sorry. Keep going and read up to verse 6.
Okay. That what we now see did not come from anything that can be seen. It was by faith that Abel brought a more acceptable offering to God than Cain did. Abel's offering.
Pause. It was by faith. What does that mean? Given what we're talking about, faith, uncertainty, and doubt, and we're looking at this new situation, they've now thrown faith in with Cain and Abel.
So then you have to redefine doubt then.
Tell me more.
So if the original context of the word is refusal to believe, is there a difference between I refuse to believe and I'm having a hard time? That probably wasn't the best.
But that's not doubt, right?
That's exactly what doubt is. It's being uncertain.
But it's not the
But is that a refusal?
But it's not the refusal to. Being uncertain and refusing to believe. So when you went back to the original language, it was the refusal to believe that changes the context. And now where I'm leaning is like, yes, doubt and unbelief are not the same. Because doubt isn't necessarily the refusal to believe. Doubt is just uncertainty. I don't know if that's refusal. Refusal has a lot of intent behind it.
Right.
Which is what we see with doubt in Thomas. Unless I see this, I refuse to believe was his posture. He was not doubting. He was not unsure. Well, maybe it might be, it couldn't be. He was like, yeah, whatever, till I see it for myself. Ain't happening. That's not doubt.
So then is it okay for me to say, Lord, I believe, but I'm struggling? Like,
that's exactly Z's question.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is exactly Z's question. But that's
what
what
my answer is now.
Zachariah, though. Zachariah had that posture.
Had what?
Yes, I know you're an angel. Yes, I know from God. But how can I be sure that what he's saying is true?
That's not refusal.
No, that's doubt.
That's doubt. 100%. Sarah was doubt.
I think
Mary was what?
Mary was
yes, Sarah was doubt.
Mary was what?
Complete confusion.
Mary wasn't a pistos.
It wasn't pistos.
Apistos. She was pistos.
Yeah, she wasn't a pistos, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I like these stories, because they help us to pull out, they're different scenarios, but they help us to pull out some of the common threads. The problem posture is the one that we see in Revelation. It's the unbelief. Right? The preferred posture is Mary on this side, the faith. But then you have the middle ground of people like Zechariah and the father who believe but yet have doubt. And what do we see from God in both of those scenarios? Sharika.
I still don't. I feel like Zachariah is a little different than the father, because the father wasn't told that his child was going to be healed. Zachariah was told that this was going to happen by an angel and chose his posture, versus I showed up amongst men who could heal. I was never told you would do it. I showed up. You're asking me a series of questions, and I expose my uncertainty.
So this is me just being me. Do you think after God said that, he wasn't going to heal the kid?
No,
Like that would be brutal for him to be like, to say all of that and be like, nah.
I don't.
So he was saying it too, right?
What I'm saying is there's a difference between who takes the initiative. The initiative was taken by the father, who came, which we don't have any experience or insight as to his posture as far as belief system, anything like that. All he knows is that Katz is healing over here, and I'm trying everything because I want my kid to be better. Versus Zachariah, who's a priest, and the angel comes to him and takes the initiative. Yo, I'm giving you this thing.
I'm with you. I hear you.
I guess I'm asking, do they both experience doubt?
I think
yes.
You're saying Mary and the father?
Zachariah and the father.
I think there's levels to doubt, perhaps. Perhaps there's levels to it. But I don't think it's the same type of doubt.
Yeah, they did. They
going
both
all over the place with this.
I don't know about the
They
levels,
both?
but I think I see the similarity between Mary and the father. Zachariah, I'm still struggling a bit. It seems like he was a bit more obstinate. It's almost like I don't know. I just don't see how this makes sense, how this could happen. He's really leaning on the side, in my mind, he's leaning on the side of unfaithfulness or apistos, right? But I could see
Especially
where
because of the initiative. The angel himself came.
Yeah.
In a place that only angels would be with you. Like anybody else dead. Like
he's in front of Jesus.
I mean, honestly though, like let's be realistic. If Jesus himself was to come down and tell me at 85, yo, Av, you gonna have a kid. Like what? Why? How? What?
Does he look like Jesus on the paintings? What does he look like? How do I know?
I like Hebrews 11, verse 11, and it says, "It was by faith that even Sarah was able to have a child, though she was barren and was too old. She believed that God would keep His promise."
Laughing. We can't use Sarah as an example. She was laughing.
Well, here's the difference. So I'm with Courtney here. I'm with
Good pull.
Courtney. And I don't really, Courtney, this is very this is unknown that we're together on this. Right? Somebody marked this down on September 17th. Like we're on the same page. Right? Like whether we may have laughed initially, but her heart may have been different.
But how do I know that
I'm
Zachariah's heart is not different?
I'm not saying so. Why I said that?
Sharika, just one thing though. It's remember when she gets the message and when the pregnancy happens, there's a long period of time.
Almost a
So
year.
it could be that initially she's like, I'm laughing, there's no way I could see this happening, and then she progresses to a place. So she moved from opistos to pistos.
And I would also say that her behavior before, I want a kid, I want a kid, I want a kid. We trying. You know what? All right, you take her. We trying. Like it doesn't sound like she gave up on her own piece. I got impatient and threw something else at him, but I still want my own piece. And so.
But this had nothing to do with Sarah. This was all about Abraham. That was all about Abraham. That had nothing to do with Sarah. That conversation was about Abraham, and Sarah was a recipient.
Yeah, she was in the back macroing. She was minding her business. She was fast.
Yeah. So this to me it goes back to a lot of times when God fulfills stuff is because of his name. It's in honor and respect of his name. He had already made a promise. He was trying to get people on board to understanding that. So for me, Z's question is, can faith and doubt coexist? Yes, because I think there is room in God's understanding of your doubt and what that is, whether it's a pistos or some other Greek word that we ain't looked up yet.
So Courtney, finish reading now. Now that Cliff has said that, go ahead and finish reading from verse 5 through to 6.
5 to 6.
11, 5. Because we read up to 4. So continue reading 5 and 6.
Okay. It was by faith that Enoch was taken up to heaven without dying. He disappeared because God took him. For before he was taken up, he was known as a person who pleased God. And it is impossible to please God without faith. Anyone who wants to come to him must believe that God exists and that he rewards those who sincerely seek him.
Mm-hmm. It's impossible to please God without
faith.
What is faith?
So, question.
Hebrews 11:1.
Because you say faith, but God is asking me for a tiny inty binty amount of faith, right? So how does that eventually grow? There has to be some doubt in there. I'm probably being blasphemous, but I feel like if you're only asking me for a mustard seed size, there has to be a level of doubt in me that eventually works its way out.
Mm-hmm. And that's probably through experience, Avani. And I think that even probably what pissed Gabriel off even more with Zachariah. My man's like, how far you come? Look at what you represent. Look what you even here for. Like Mary she was a young thing, maybe 12. Oh, man, that sounds so bad. Let's not do that. She was a young thing. Like let's just not do that. Forget it. She let it rock. I'm dead.
18.
She was not no 18.
Stop. On this show, she is.
So if you say fire for that, that's not blasphemous, is it?
No.
Okay.
Hey, she was young. Dean, I see the wheels turning there. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Oh no, I'm just listening and learning. So nothing. I don't have anything to share at this point.
Okay. So I'm gonna share my screen again because I came across this, I think, with Courtney one time in Bible study. So it says, now faith, which is the word, the anti-word to the one we had before, apistos. Remember, it said it's the negative of this word. So it's the complete opposite. What the word unbelief is that we discovered for Thomas and the people who are outside in Revelation is the opposite of this, right? So this thing, whatever it is the King James uses the word substance, which is an interesting word. it's the setting under which a thing is put. It's almost like a foundation, the substance or foundation of a thing, right? It's the base on which the thing sits. It's the steadfastness of mind, firmness of courage, resolution, confidence, firm trust, and assurance, right? So it's the substance of things hoped for. Hoped for, you would think is an expectation, but the hope is a measure of uncertainty. So it's the foundation on which my hope sits. And then the next word that was there is the evidence. This is a proof. That which is proven or tested by conviction is the evidence of things not seen. Naturally, in that definition, to me, it sounds like doubt is a part of that, or that there's room for doubt because there's no certainty in the thing that you're hoping for. But there's certainty on the thing in which that hope rests. I've heard some person say to once that the opposite of faith is certainty.
Right.
Yeah, when I think of the word faith, I'm looking at faith being, I jotted down a little bit. Faith to me is like believing in God, believing his authority, and believing what he says. To me, it's not as much based on the outcome. And as I grow, I'm still trying to develop my understanding of what faith truly means. Because when I was younger, I believe Avanique brought up the scripture talking about the mustard seed. In the past, I used to believe like having a lot of belief in the outcome. Like, if I believe that this mountain's going to move, it's just going to somehow happen. You know what I mean? And not really believing in God's sovereign authority and who he is, and agreeing with the outcome of my belief and what I put my faith in. So that's just a little bit of a growth in my understanding, but I'm still learning. I'm sure there's more to learn, because faith, it seems simple on the outside, but I think you really got to really dig into it. It has a bunch of layers.
Yeah. And the thing about it is you can't prove beyond a shadow of a doubt with faith. Can you? Kenrick, yeah, unmute if you're talking. We can't hear you, Kenrick.
Hit the M on your keyboard. Oh.
Go ahead.
Say that again, Jared.
Go ahead, Cliff.
No, I was saying repeat that.
I was saying the things that we have faith in, we can't prove beyond a shadow of a doubt.
They're all theories.
True.
Very true.
So doubt makes room for faith. But doubt can very quickly become unbelief.
Doubt makes room for faith.
Yes, because
if
I'm certain, it's not faith anymore. If
Or is it the other way around?
I don't need faith.
Doubt makes room
Isn't it the other way around? Faith makes room for doubt?
No.
Doubt makes room for faith?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can prove something, it doesn't require faith.
Right.
That's what
Where it says it is the evidence of things we cannot see.
Yeah.
They are scientifically, they're just theories, things you cannot replicate and or prove without a doubt.
Require faith.
Correct.
I notice
So
what
doubt,
God does.
I think to your point, the existence, I shouldn't say the probability of doubt is what makes room for faith. The probability that I am not certain of whether or not this is completely true is where faith comes in.
Correct.
And I choose to believe it even though I'm not certain.
Right.
Yes.
To Andrew's point, I choose to believe it because of who he has been and demonstrated so far to be.
And that goes into how you can't convince somebody to believe.
Which is
Correct.
why we are saved by grace through
Faith.
We have to believe that Jesus is the Son of God. But we can't prove that.
Correct.
We can present evidence for it, and then from that evidence, you can choose to believe. But there's doubt there as to whether he actually is. And I know I have to make a choice. On this evidence, do I believe? Or on this lack of evidence, do I choose not to believe?
So what did this guy have? Because that's not what it sounds like this guy had. This guy had unbelief, right? Isn't that a pistol?
Which guy?
The father.
From Mark.
Yeah. He was working. It sounded like now that we've gone through this whole thing is that he was saying to help my unbelief, help that. What was the term we used for unbelief?
My refusal to believe.
My refusal to believe.
My refusal to believe.
Yeah.
I think he was heading towards that and hadn't gotten there yet.
Yeah, I don't see him being at a peace though.
I don't think so. I think he was presented with options, to Jared's point, and I'm struggling to be 100% with the one I want to be with, even though I see remnants of the existence, I'm struggling with it, perhaps because of my past, because of the fact that I've been so many places, the fact that your people weren't even able to do it. I'm struggling here, but I'm not leaving because I didn't get to you yet. Like, because he could have left.
Yeah, it goes back to what you said before.
Huh?
Yeah. No. What you're saying is right around where Cliff was before, like, just the experience that he had.
And after
getting there.
After the disciples fail, like, imagine just being like in that crowd and the disciples fail. At that point, he'd be like, yo, give me my kid, yo. I'm out, yo.
Right.
Like,
And I think had he done that, he would have been in the space of I refuse to believe.
Right.
Correct.
But he didn't. And he's like, yo, big man, I'm gonna talk to the big man. Let's see how this let's see how this works. Cause something in me says this big man he's done it. I'm discouraged. But he's done it.
So was his?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so was his test? Was his faith tested?
Man,
Revealed.
Ruben, I don't even want to do that with you right now. That's not 15.
I was proven, tested, proven, revealed, strengthened, grown, all of that.
Yeah, I would definitely say his faith was strengthened.
Was that?
I said I would definitely say that his faith was strengthened.
No, I actually don't. I'm not too far off of where Ruben is. I think it was tested.
Here's why I say that it is, and it could have been, but here's why I say that. Here's why I am where I am. I think that the very fact that, like we talked about having faith, there has to be a level of doubt there. But I think the fact that he's just like, yo, I'm bringing both of them to you after I've been let down.
Mm-hmm.
I think that speaks growth to me. I don't necessarily know if it was a test. I think it may have worked out that it grew him, but I don't.
So let's redefine test to why do we test children in school, or why do they give us tests in school? To see where we are, right? As an assessment to see where we are. And when we get our results, we realize what we need to work on, if anything. We get a sense of where we actually are. So a test is not really a bad thing because it helps you know where you are so that you know where you need to be, right? Keep on working or work harder, right? So I guess in that, if you frame test that way, that proving, do you really have faith? Well, let's see. How will we know if you have faith? Just because you said it? Let's see, and let's let you see how much faith you actually have. Let's do a little test.
Yeah, I agree with you. And when I think of that test, I think of Matthew 14, 28. When the Lord called out to Peter, and I guess I could read it real quick.
Go ahead.
I'll start at 28. Then Peter called to him, Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you. Walk on water. Yes, come, Jesus said. So Peter went over the side of the boat and walked on the water towards Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. Save me, Lord, he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. You have so little faith, Jesus said. Why did you doubt me?
Who else is going to be walking on water?
Who sees the wind? I have a problem with that text always. Who sees the wind?
Peter should have been lame after that. He should have been. Can't doubt. He's walking on water.
Yeah, but
we see the wind all the time when they show footage of the hurricanes. We see the wind all the time.
What do you mean you see the wind? You see the stuff moving. You don't see the wind. You don't see the wind. You see the trees going like this.
It's evidence of the wind.
I'm upset right now.
So what are you looking at? If you're not looking at the wind, what is that?
Trees moving.
I mean, tell me where you see the wind, because I don't see it. I just see stuff moving. Proof of the wind.
The effects of, yes.
Yeah, the effect of the wind.
Yeah. No, you're right.
It's just a language thing.
But yo, man, Drew brought up a great example, man, of Peter walking out. I mean, can you imagine being in that position? I still have no idea how he doubted. For the simple fact, I don't know. And we can always say if it was me, I could have did something different. But if I asked God to come out on the water and I started walking on the water, dude, I don't think I'd have been doubting.
Yeah.
Who else walked on water?
But it's,
Right, but guys, the issue here is that
this was the beginning of his ministry, no?
It was early in it. It wasn't.
It was early in it. So
Yo, I was walking on water.
So 31 says, immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. Ye of little faith, he said, why did you doubt me?
Sorry, this is not early. This was somewhere in the middle of it. Because
Right.
he already feed the 5,000.
Did he doubt him or did he doubt? I mean,
I feel like here's what I see, right? From that text, I see clearly Peter has some sort of faith because he actually got out of the boat and went.
Yeah.
But it seems like there was a greater in the scale. There was more doubt than there was faith, because I think this was early for Peter, like, because realistically none of them really like got it until he died, and came. Not even when he died they were disappointed. They didn't get it until he came back. So I feel like we can't judge Peter that hard. Like, I get it. That's an amazing miracle, and if I was doing it, I'd probably be like, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But I feel like at the beginning of this journey, it was okay to have more doubt. I'm not being blasphemous. For Peter, it was okay to have more doubt than faith.
There's
I
a
think
lot.
we're missing. I think we're missing one thing.
You're right.
Let's get the room for a second.
He started off believing and walking on the water. We get that. Great miracle, all of that. What caused him to doubt is where he shifted his focus to. When he was believing, his focus was on Christ and Christ's ability and what Christ could do. And then he shifted his focus to, the waves, the everything going crazy around him. And that's what caused him to doubt. And I think it's true of any of us. It doesn't matter where we are in our Christianity.
reality. Yeah.
How long ago, once we take our eyes off of Christ and his, to Sharika's point, his ability, his omnipotence, all of that, and we start worrying about, situations, circumstances, is this going to happen for me? That just opens up the floodgates, and then you start sinking below the waves, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
Pistos.
We have a good question in here from Lorraine. Who I'm sorry, Lorraine. I didn't do great math. As you can
No
see,
math.
there's
No
10.
math.
Yeah, there's 10. I just counted.
I'm sorry. I did not do good math today. She asked a good question. Is losing focus the same as doubt?
No.
And I'm saying that because of what Jerry was saying about the shift of focus.
Losing focus can cause you to doubt, but I don't think it's the same thing.
Okay.
Well,
Maybe
I
doubt
think,
can
I think
cause you
the
to lose
losing,
focus.
I think
I
the
don't know.
losing the focus, I think the losing the focus, I guess I can get behind the can cause you to doubt, but the losing focus means that when you lose focus, you're now focused on other things, right? And the other things at that point become bigger than obviously there's a reason why you lost focus.
I
And
think
I
it's
have
like what Drew said. It's you focus on the result.
Was that again?
I think it was like what Drew was saying. You start to focus on the result, like versus you're thinking about God's authority. Is he sovereign or not? You're looking at the results.
Or you're looking at the
reality,
things,
though.
or you're looking at the things that may affect you getting to where you're supposed to be. Like the way I look at Peter is like he would step out the boat going towards Jesus, right? That was his focus. When he steps out the boat, he starts to walk on water, and then he starts seeing all the things that can prevent him from getting there. The wind, the waves, all those types of things, which now cause you to lose focus, right? So now those things become more important or bigger than where you were going. And I don't think you necessarily doubt, but at that point, your priorities become different.
Like, perfect example, right? I might leave this house in perfect peace and oneness and calmness. When I get out and get in my car and leave this driveway, this parking garage, and I get to the first light, I completely lose focus on my peace.
That's it?
I just, man, I'm not that great. Like, I become I completely lose focus when you left the house, you were centered and at peace.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I mean, to me, it sounds like these people, I guess, as I'm looking at them, they, not necessarily all of them are losing focus, but like with Peter's case, like reality, as far as the human being or the human mind knows, like reality is, if this wind is blowing and there's a hurricane, I need to like move or whatever. You know what I'm saying? That's reality. That's not out of the, like realm of whatever, but you're losing focus over reality, which, I mean,
the dude's walking on water.
Saying reality, like you said, you see the wind, right? Like, didn't you just say that too? Like, he saw the wind, and
I still feel like that's authority. Do you believe that he is the creator and master of everything or not?
If I'm driving down to National Stadium from Maryland, and I see the Anacostia stand up on both sides and Bama's walking across that joint, I'm believing. There's no conversation.
What? I mean, Sharika. I'm going to be Sharika this time. I'm going with Sharika. When Sharika always says, if the Red Sea would have parted, she was standing right there, she would have said, I'm not going. So I feel like it's just certain things where I'd be like, Peter, I got to give him mad props, because I wouldn't even have asked Jesus, can I come? Because I'd have been like, well, Jesus, do your thing. I'll just wait right here on the boat. Because I'm not doing that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just certain things that humanly maybe you know what, there's certain things that I believe, and this is the thing that killed me. There's just certain things that oh, there goes Lorraine's question right there, logic and faith. Like, I'm just like, I don't know,
Wait, I hate to prolong stuff like this, but so you're saying that so you're saying that God is there, Pharaoh and his army is behind it. He parched the Red Sea.
Why did you say Pharaoh?
Everybody is headed across the Red Sea, and you're like, yeah, I ain't doing that. I'm gonna chill right here.
Unless I'm on Moses' back or shoulders, I'm in Egypt. I keep telling y'all that. Y'all don't want to go with it.
You're gonna stay there.
All right, let's bring some comments from the group. Let's bring some comments from the chat, because there's some good discussion points in here, and I want to try and tie it together, because there's some interesting stuff about how God interacts with these people who have this cocktail of doubt and faith. So Charles asks, does the wrong focus create the environment for doubt? That might be a rhetorical question.
Does the what?
The wrong focus create the
Oh,
environment?
wrong focus. Got you.
Yeah. Yes, it can.
All right. So Lawrence says, so you start using logic, focusing on the natural facts and the reality of a thing and not faith. Now, that's why I like the two stories we have in Luke 1, because they have this contrast. Both of them used logic, because I guess that is the next question. Can logic and faith live together?
No.
Yes. Both Mary and Zachariah used logic. I'm a virgin. How does this work? That don't make sense. I am your servant. Be it as you will. Right? Zachariah goes, how I can be sure about this?
So I'm with Jared. I think logic and faith can exist in the same space. I think
faith isn't logical.
When we think logic, we automatically think it has to prove something. But that's not the definition of logic.
Logic is a means of investigating something.
So I can investigate something faith-based. And I can use that logic to come to a conclusion about who God is.
So you're saying, so hold on. So are you saying that and there are some situations where faith makes sense?
No.
Because I guess logic,
No, both. I think both can be true.
No. How does faith make sense?
So here's the definition I'm looking at, right? Reasoning conducted or assessed according to strict principles of validity, right? So if I look at, let's use my life as an example, right? If I look at the course of my life, I can examine what's been happening and assess how they ended. And I can use my logic to come to a conclusion about who God is to me, right? And how he interacts with me, how he deals with whatever my little stuff is, right? So I don't see how logic doesn't inform my faith. Does that make sense?
No.
If I'm going by the definition, right? If I'm going by the definition and it says reasoning conducted or assessing according to strict principles of validity. So, if it's a valid point, right? If I look at my life, I can say, what's an example that's not extreme? Right? So okay, when I didn't have a place, when I didn't have a home, a valid solution immediately appeared, right? Without me having to completely fall apart, without me sleeping on the street, something immediately opened, right? Then I look at, I needed a job. I lived upstate New York. The job was in the city, and I needed a place to stay, and that worked out. So if I'm looking at the events of what's happening over my life, I can use that to inform my faith.
Yes.
Right.
That's exactly what God expected.
So my logic can inform my faith.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm saying it from this point, Kenrick. So logic can challenge faith, but logic can also inform faith. Both can be true. And I say that because God is saying to the children of Israel, you really think I brought you all the way from Egypt to let you die in the desert? After I've been with you all these 10 times, you really think
Which is him asking them to use the logic, like, look at what I've done. Like, I'm asking you to evaluate what I've done before. Use the logic of what I've done before to make an informed decision about what I'm going to do for you.
Right, and at the same time, logic can undermine faith.
Right.
Depending on how logic is used. Because logic is just a system of principles or thoughts that allow you to reach to a conclusion. So logic can do both.
Yeah. When I think of this question too, I'm thinking of logic as believing in God, what he did and what he said. You know, I think sometimes faith and logic can look different in different ways. You know, for example, like dipping in the pool of Bethesda. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't necessarily seem logical, but I guess looking at like God or Christ, looking at his track record and who he is and what he's done, you know, I'm basing my belief in what he's already done, and it's logical. You know what I mean? It's logical. You can see him through history, and that's the logic. You know what I mean? But some of the outcomes or some of the other things cannot make sense. But it's based upon what he's done and following what he says. So
That's a great point, Drew. I think Naaman is a good example of that. Naaman's logic had him saying, this don't make sense to dip in the pool. Naaman's servant said, you came to the man of God. The man of God told you to do that. It makes sense to go ahead and do it. Right? If he had told you to do something else, wouldn't you have done it? Both of those are logic. Depends on which way your logic is leading you. Very quickly, I'm going to go through this. The focus turned to self abilities and how the environment affected self. And I think that's what makes sense to me, as opposed to, do I trust him? Which of those logics am I using? Yeah. All right. Thank you all. Lauren goes on to add, they can live together, but logic has to submit at all times.
They can live together, but logic has to submit at all times. Okay.
I would reframe that and say, we walk by faith and not by sight. Meaning, the logic I use to make my decisions should be a faith-based one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we keep adding a negative connotation to logic, and it's not necessarily what it is.
Yeah, logic is just the thoughts that lead me to a conclusion, and the principles I use to create that pattern of thoughts. And so I should employ a logic that's faith-based. Should. She goes on to say, logic must submit to faith when you reach a crossroads and they are conflicting. I would not say logic should submit to faith, but I get what you're saying, but I wouldn't say it should submit to faith.
Because if you have faith in something, that assumes that everything you have faith in is positive and should be done.
Correct. Yeah. That's why my framing would be, faith should inform my logic and my thinking process and how I process towards decision. Yes. Yes. As Vanessa's putting it here, at some point, directly thinking faith-based becomes logic. It becomes my logic. The reason why I'm doing this is because I believe.
Right.
Come on, Vanessa.
I have an example in James 4, verses 13 to 15. It says, "Come now, you who say today or tomorrow we will go to such and such a city and spend a year there and engage in business and make a profit. Yet you do not know what your life will be like tomorrow, for you are just a vapor that appears for a little while and then vanishes away. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and also do this or do that."
But you don't know that that's his next question.
But guys, real quick though, back to that whole doubt thing, right? Because while he's on James, because in James, I think it's 1, he also says, don't, if we pray, but we doubt, maybe let me read it because I don't want to misquote it.
You are very right.
Yeah, so then if he says that, then how can we say there is a healthy dose of doubt that
What doubt is it though? Is it epistos or apistos or?
We didn't say that.
Either doubt.
Well, we've labeled apistos as unbelief and separated it out from doubt. So we have unbelief and we have doubt and we have faith, right? So for our purposes, we're going with those 3. Unbelief on this end, faith on this end, doubt somewhere in the middle. I will say, Z.
But then when you must believe and not doubt. Okay. Yeah.
So let's go to what Jesus does to the people who have doubt. All right? Or what God does, because all the sister stories are not the same. What was the last story that we had? Peter walking on water. What does Jesus do with Peter in that situation? When Peter experiences doubt.
He asks him, like, what do you mean? What does he do? Other than asking him, why did you doubt me?
No, let's go back to the story. How does Peter make it back to the boat?
Jesus helps him.
Jesus
picks
Jesus
him up.
helps him to do what?
Get back in the boat.
How?
He picks him up. He holds his hand.
And then they do
They
what?
walk on water.
And then they do what?
They walk on water together.
They have to walk back on the water
Who
to get
says
back
that?
to the boat.
But guys, what proof do we
Guys,
have?
because Jesus is out there, he's walking towards Jesus.
How do you know he's not dragging this Bama back? There's nothing there that says that.
Let's read the story. Let's read the story. What story was it? What was the story?
This is Matthew 14.
What if he was just like a step away and then Jesus just walked closer to him and helped him out the boat?
It starts at verse
What
22.
if the boat just rode itself to them? Like,
So Jerome, I actually never, in my head, I've always thought of like water pouring into Peter's mouth as he's getting back to the boat. I never thought that he'd be walking back.
I know, but if you read this story, he's walking, he leaves the boat, walks towards Jesus, starts to drown. Jesus picks him up, and they go back together.
Yeah, but what if he just stepped out the boat and Jesus just walks closer to him?
If you read the narrative, Jesus was a way off, and at first they thought, let's go to the story.
Let's go to it.
14:29 or 28. Lord, if it's you, Peter replied, tell me to come to you on the water. Come, he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat and walked on the water and did what?
Caught him and held him.
And came toward Jesus. So he started moving away from the boat.
Yes.
But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and began sinking and cried out, Lord, save me. He got close enough to Jesus that Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, wherever they were out on the water. You little faith, why did you doubt? And then he says, and when they climbed back in the boat,
he carried him on his neck. He put him on his neck like I put my daughters on my neck. Peter's testicles were on the back of Jesus' neck, and they got on the boat after that.
Yeah.
I just like the part where Jesus says, why did you doubt me?
So however they got back to the boat, Jesus almost indulged the doubt and tried to adjust it. He didn't just chastise him. He helped him to grow his faith in that experience. You see the same thing with Zachariah. The angel says, because he didn't believe, this will happen. And that action serves to shore up his belief so he has more confidence next time. What was the other story that we talked about? The father. Jesus dialogues with him and does that little exchange. And even in Jesus' questioning, can I? Really?
But Zachariah caught the L though.
He didn't really catch an L. God was merciful.
Who caught an L?
Zachariah.
I mean, it could look like an L, but it could be how God shored up his faith.
Yeah, because I believe in that story, Zachariah was like praising his name, like right after that, once he, had the ability to, speak again. That was the first thing he did, So that was,
yeah, because he could speak.
We also we didn't need Zachariah running his mouth until the angel and God did what they were supposed to do. So you gonna have to shut up because you're gonna do a lot to the story, and we ain't got time for that. Let's stuff that happen. You need to think. Shut up and think. That's just what it was.
And even to Thomas, when Thomas refused to believe, Jesus shows up and says, "Yo, don't be faithless." believe. What we have with God in all of these circumstances is that while people are wrestling in this space of unbelief and doubt along this sliding scale, God is working with them to move them closer to faith.
So let me throw something else in the mix, right?
Agreed.
There is the village that Jesus went to where they refused to believe, right? And he was like, yo, I can't bang with y'all, and leaves, right? Dust your foot, dust the dirt off your foot, separate yourself. Like there's a point, I feel like there is a point where Jesus is just, well, I feel like that was probably a pistos as opposed to doubt. When it comes to dealing with, like, I refuse to believe that you could do, was this his hometown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when it gets to the point where I refuse to believe, then it's just like, okay, well, I'm not gonna really bang with y'all.
But that was his thing to them. Period. Yeah. You go to any town, if they don't bang with you, then you dust the shoes off and keep it moving.
Which is why he gives them that power, right? He gives them that power so that they will believe. It's why God gave Moses the power to go before Pharaoh. Like, yeah, so that they'll believe what you say. I'm gonna let you do this. It's why we are given that power to accompany our message so that people will believe who we are, that we come from God. Because if we don't have that way of demonstrating that we're with God, why would people believe us? Right? That's the point of the power. But even in the face of the power, people didn't believe Jesus. They chose to be apistos because, and there were people who were doubting. He from Nazareth, so he couldn't be the Messiah, right? He eating grain in the field, so he definitely can't be the Messiah. Yo, but he just raised the dead. I was there. I saw it. Yeah, but... And so there was this doubt about Jesus, and he did not try to remove it. He did not try to prove with certainty. They were like, come down off the cross and we'll believe you. Because faith is about certainty in the things that we can't see based on the evidence that he's given us. And faith is rooted in doubt from the standpoint of not being able to prove with certainty. It's dependent on that, because when you take that away, it's not faith anymore. So if we go back to Z's question, can faith and doubt coexist? We have at least 4 examples that say yes.
Yes.
Should faith and doubt coexist? We have 4 examples that say no. Is unbelief the same as doubt?
No.
Is there a healthy amount of doubt or belief to have?
Yeah.
Yes, none.
What?
Mm-mm. Not a healthy amount.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait. So there's no healthy amount of doubt to have.
Healthy? No.
No, not healthy.
Because then that
it's natural, but
what we talked about tonight.
Having broke up doubt and unbelief. Now the question is, so from what I'm hearing, y'all, from what I'm hearing and understanding, I can't have some sort of doubt. There's nothing wrong with me having some sort of doubt, right? But however, I can't have unbelief. No?
So you shouldn't have doubt either, which is what James says, which is what James says very clearly. You have to be certain in your faith. Faith is about being certain in your belief, not being certain of the thing, but being certain in your belief. Because remember and do not doubt.
Because remember the definition was the substance beneath the belief. Like that faith. You can't be uncertain about that. It was almost like a rock, this foundation that was underneath it.
It can't be a shifting foundation. It has to be solid for the house to stand. However, we all are in that place of moving towards doubt and eliminating doubt. And the presence of doubt can serve to strengthen faith to where doubt becomes eliminated.
But see, when you say it like that, then you're telling me that doubt can be there while I'm building faith. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, it can be there.
So then they can coexist then. That's what that, in a way, to a degree, you know?
Your question was healthy.
Your question was healthy.
Okay, so remove the word healthy. Remove the word healthy.
Let's go back to question one. Question one is, can faith and doubt coexist? The answer we said was, we have 4 examples that says yes. I added a second question. Should faith and doubt coexist? What we learned tonight is no. That's not what God's ideal is.
Or at least not for a long period of time.
Correct.
Right. So they can't be roommates. Somebody gotta go.
Somebody gotta go. Yep.
The idea of coexistence, and maybe that's where you might be struggling, Z. The idea of coexistence means the acceptance of both being present.
I'm struggling with doubt makes room for faith.
Yes. Doubt from the standpoint of being certain about something, being able to prove beyond the shadow of a doubt. Doubt from the standpoint, we could even say it, uncertainty makes room for faith.
So
like
Z,
it was. Go ahead.
Z, if you look at it, let's say you're a jury member, right? They always tell you beyond reasonable doubt, or Jay-Z's album, whichever one comes first. But in order for you to say, I have not an inkling that the evidence that's presented could be skewed. That's what you're asking someone to be. So when you let's even think about creation. I have, without an inkling that what I see could possibly be skewed. I don't. However, I'm choosing to believe it anyway.
Correct.
There is a world where I may be incorrect. However, I'm choosing to believe it anyway. And I recognize that world exists. And I hope that the further I get down this journey, the less and less I care about the fact that it may not be true.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes.
Does that make sense, Z?
I told you she was ordained recently.
Bishop.
But to Kenrick's question, does that make sense, Z?
I have to watch this over again. Because
you're gonna sit through this whole thing and watch it?
I am gonna sit down and watch this thing over again. I'm telling you, because like I see these people and I feel like, I don't know, maybe the way I'm thinking about it is, okay, I can see it on both sides. Maybe let me put it that way. I can see it on both sides. I can see it on both sides if doubt is going to elevate my faith. Like these people, some of these people that we saw, because to this guy, this father, obviously to me, I feel like that ended up strengthening him, right? Had he had another child that got sick, he probably would have known who exactly to go to first, right? To me, that's what that tells me. When at first he went to everybody else and then finally went to Jesus. So in that kind of context, I feel like that was a healthy form of doubt, if you will. I mean, I don't even want to call it a healthy form of doubt, but I want to say there was some doubt there that helped him to a degree.
Yeah, that's why I say doubt makes room for faith, but it doesn't. But the goal is for it to not to be there, because the same people, when Jesus was on earth, Peter and them could have had the same doubts as the Pharisees. And the same set of doubts could lead you to disbelief, and the same set of doubts can lead you to faith. Are the doubts necessary for that?
No, they're not necessary for that. But so just like you just mentioned the disciples, right? And I see like most of the times in the stories with the disciples, like they just seem to kind of not get it all the time. Like he's like, hey, We
And what
fed
Jesus
the
responds to
4,000
that?
last time. We're feeding the 5,000 this time. Yet still, they kind of still like, where are we gonna get the bread from? Like, and it's like, okay, I mean,
So
do
what
you
is
not
Jesus'
believe
response to Peter?
when what happened?
On the water, what did Jesus say to him?
Why did you doubt me? When he said walk on the water, he said, why did you doubt me?
Yeah. Is he suggesting that the doubt that helped him grow his faith is something he should keep?
No.
Because it helped him grow his faith.
No, the doubt, he shouldn't have that doubt.
Exactly. And that's what we're saying.
But for him to get there, he needed that.
Yes, doubt does
He
aid in the
needed that. For him to even know that capability in Jesus is there. Being he was getting to know Jesus, they were kind of like in the middle of Jesus's ministry. For him to get to know that Jesus can do that, he needed to see that, did he not?
So you brought up the example of Jesus's kind of frustration with the disciples. I think essentially what we're trying to say is, if you look at the life of the disciples, when they first met Jesus, they didn't necessarily understand, which is where their doubt was, right? Eventually, as they were journeying with him along the years, Jesus gets frustrated because he's like, yo, haven't I shown you who I've been? I've been consistent in showing you that who I am, and you still don't get it. So you can have doubt, but eventually you need to get to a place where that's no longer the primary feeling.
So then let's not say it should not be there. Let's not.
No. I think
I feel like we're looking at it as always a negative, and we want to eliminate it. Like
it shouldn't stay there.
Right. So that's what they were saying, like a healthy amount, right? They were saying that eventually there needs to not be a lot of it, right?
Or any of it. Eventually you should get rid of it.
It shouldn't stay
there.
there.
A larger amount of faith than there is doubt.
I like Henry's
And to everybody's point, Jesus was walking them through this process while he was there. Like, I mean, we saw it in Mark where he fed the 5,000, he fed the 4,000. They were still asking the same questions. Like it was walking the process, even to the point where, and you didn't see them. I think somebody mentioned earlier, you didn't really see them mature and grow until after Jesus is gone. Like it was still a process that they were going through. So did it exist? Yes. But it can't stay there.
Necessary, because even though Jesus was frustrated with them, who they were after he left, it completely changed the game. So I think the process is necessary, Z.
Yes, there is a process, and the doubt does facilitate the process, but it's something that you want to get rid of less and have less and less of. Moving toward. That's why I had the scale. Doubt is in the middle here. You want to move to that side where faith is. And on faith side, there is no doubt. And he's going to be patient with you, and he's going to be patient. And what we see is that he is patient with us to walk us and even take advantage of our doubt to help us move towards this place of faith.
Okay.
And there's no time frame
to help us eliminate it.
All right. So and see, Jared, so to me, so like just how you just said it, the way I look at it is I need some sort of doubt for Jesus to take me from one step to the next step, because I'm telling you, Jesus is not, I feel like, I'm going to speak for my life. I feel like, well, while there are other things where God has to kind of use it a few times for me to get it. Like, I'm like, I didn't get that the last time. But one of the things that I've noticed, like when I get it just like that, God comes back next time with something else that challenges me even more. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can get out of this. However, I do remember the last time. But when I remember the last time, I only my mind only limits me up to, I do remember last time you got me out of that house with the roots. I do remember that. But then it steps right here. But then now I have a house that has a fire, and I'm like, I've never seen you do that. And there's like an element of doubt that says, God, I've seen you get me out of the roots, but this time we're in something different. So I need you to show me. I'm not like 100%, but at the same time, I feel like God has enough grace and mercy to cover even that little 3% that I'm doubting with. So why wouldn't I, knowing what I know and knowing what he knows about me, why wouldn't it be healthy for me to have some inkling of?
Because
I think your posture is what is important, right? So we go back to the father who says, yo, I do believe, but help my unbelief, right?
Mhm.
So I think if you're bringing it to him, then that makes a world of a difference.
Go ahead.
Eventually you will get to the point where it's just like, and I get it because I don't have an issue, I don't have the same issues you're having, but it manifests itself in different ways for all of us. Eventually you get to the point where it's just like, okay, I no longer have to doubt that, I no longer have to second guess myself, I no longer have to sit here and have full tantrum, because based off who God has been and what he has done and how he has shown up, I know that regardless of the outcome, I know that this is the end goal. You know, does that make sense?
Good.
No, I was saying that and you explaining the process that we have to go through. That was Christ's ministry. Christ's frustration was, yo, we've been walking this step day by day. Yesterday, I healed about 15 people that was deaf, blind, and dumb. Today, I just pulled a few folks that was paralyzed up. Tomorrow, I'll be doing this. We've been doing this now over and over for a long period of time, and you still have doubt? Like, what more do I got to be careful with my words. What more do you need from me to understand that all things are possible through God? So why is it that if God gave us the ability to feed 5,000, are you even asking me the question about what are we going to do for this? Like, haven't you seen enough? That's what Christ's frustration was coming from. Is like, I'm trying to get you to the point where I won't even be here, where your faith will really be tested. Like, you believe me now because you see me, but after a while, I won't even be here. And you have to understand the process that we've gone through so that there won't be any doubt. So when you ask in the Father's name, he'll give it to you. I believe that was his frustration. It's like, yo, I'm trying to move you along and you still stuck at, Master, how are we going to do that? What do you mean, how are we going to do that? We're going to ask God like we've been asking God. And he's going to come through. I'm sorry. That's
why. Go ahead, Jerry.
To your point, that is the same frustration he had with the children of Israel in the wilderness, which is why they stayed in the wilderness. Because it's like they'll come up against a challenge, he'd make a way, he'd deliver them, and then they'll be like, okay, so how are we gonna deal with these giants? How are we gonna deal with this? And it's like the same way I did it for the past 40 years, right? So
yeah, that's why it is helpful, and he leverages it, and he has grace in his leveraging of it, but it's not necessary.
Yeah.
Breaking your bones strengthens them, but it's not necessary to break your bones in order to strengthen them.
Yeah, I agree. And no, I was just reflecting on the verse that you read, kind of about Thomas and how he was doubting, as well. He had that doubt in him. And then I'm just going to quickly fast forward to one verse, John 20:29. And it just says, and Jesus told him, you believe because you have seen me. Then it says, blessed are those who believed without seeing me. So it seems like there's greater emphasis on not having that doubt than keep carrying that doubt with you from my perspective on how I'm reading that.
Yeah. There's those people who believe without the certainty, like they weren't actually there. They didn't actually, they've taken your word for it. That's a whole different level of belief. But yeah. Are you settled, Z? Lauren says, doubt is covered by his grace, but it's not necessary for it. She adds, I think the hard thing for me is if it's something similar. It's easier not to doubt, but when it's totally uncharted territory, that's where the anxiety doubt kicks in. I want to add this from someone who's on YouTube, Kenja McNeil, who says, I don't think doubt and faith can coexist, to our previous question. I think faith starts with doubt. If you feel uncertain, how can you be certain? And I think that's a good point. Faith can start with doubt, but should not stay with doubt. It can start with there, but it shouldn't stay there. It shouldn't take doubt along for the entire ride, saying, I need you, doubt. You're helping me. I need you, doubt. You're helping me. It's like, all right, doubt, I can get rid of you now. Training wheels are helpful, but the goal is to ride without them. You don't need training wheels. Eventually, you should get rid of them, and you should try to really learn to ride without them. But if you can't learn to ride without them, we'll use them, and we'll make use of them. Doubt is like training wheels. They're not necessary, but they're helpful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Vanessa had a statement in here, but I'm not sure that it directly connects to where we are now. But I'm gonna share it because she included it. His background matters, in my opinion, to how God chooses to teach him, the lesson plan he chooses for this specific individual, which I think is also true. All right. We are at 10 o'clock, and we didn't get to Z's second question.
Dude, Z, like, you dominate. Like, you gotta stop.
Yeah, like I haven't even been here. Actually, haven't been here for a month. Like, actually, yeah, over a month.
Always these questions.
Z sends them in advance. That's partly why.
And you know what? You need to tell us to send them. You need to do that too, Kendrick. Send them ahead of time.
Shots fired.
Those were shots fired. I have no rebuttal.
Since you have problems with my pronunciations of words, yeah, send them ahead of time.
What you said?
You heard me.
All right.
All right. So at 10 o'clock, we try to close out, to be respectful of people's time. And so what we do at the end of our conversation is try to process, okay, what do we talk about and what am I leaving here with? So that these are not just, good theological conversations that spur intellect and, have no value, but actually give us something that we will all, walk away with that we can use in life going forward. And we try to have people articulate them because that way it kind of sticks and it becomes that was valuable to me. This is what I can use. And then when we go around and everyone gets to share, we get a better feel for other things that may be powerful that come out of the conversation. This is also useful because sometimes we talk about all kinds of things all over the place, and we want to at least be able to walk away with what was valuable out of that for me. What did I learn about myself, about God, about life that has practical application for me? And so I'm going to ask if you can, we're going to go around the robin if you're on, and for those who are online, if you could just share them in the chat and we'll read them so that we can all benefit from them. And we'll go around and do the takeaways. So what are you walking away with tonight? What's your takeaway? I'm gonna start with you, Courtney, and then come around.
Okay. Two things for me. Again, for we walk by faith and not by sight. And I love that part in Matthew, again, right before Peter called to Jesus, he said to them, don't be afraid, take courage, I am. And that, again, where our faith should be in who God is. And that's where I get where I am right now, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Avani?
So to Lorraine's last comment, or second to last comment, as someone that suffers from anxiety, I can find myself in a cycle of feeling like because I'm anxious about something, I feel like my faith is weak. And I can find myself just focusing on my anxiety, that therefore means my faith isn't weak, right? I mean, therefore means my faith is weak. But I think if I shift my focus and understand that my doubt, it's a part of my process and learning to lean on who God has been consistently, as opposed to focusing on the anxiety and essentially just tearing away at my faith because I'm focusing on it.
Word. Dean? You're mute.
Yeah, I'm still reflecting and gathering my thoughts. If you can come back to me, that'd be
all right. No worries. Z?
Okay, so and I probably need to come back with this, but there is no healthy amount of doubt that I can have to at least coexist with faith, period. There isn't. but like someone said earlier, and thanks for bringing up the whole logic thing, because this whole time I've been like, logic and faith cannot, period, cannot go together, period. But how you guys broke it down between you and Jared, kind of like broke it down, that logic can inform your faith, like, you know, that really kind of cleared up some stuff for me. So maybe the way I was looking at it was, that was my healthy dose of doubt to a degree. So that kind of clarified some stuff for me there.
Okay. Drew?
Let's see. Yeah, I guess I never thought too much about doubt and unbelief. I kind of just always maybe lumped them together or really didn't pay too much focus on it. But I think, you know, having this conversation, it definitely kind of gave me a little bit more clarity on that there is, in fact, a difference. You know, also through this reading, you know, I'm really seeing just the compassion of Jesus, the compassion, you know, of Christ, and how he's able to use our doubt, you know, and into, you know, into a way that can grow our faith ultimately. And I guess his purpose is just to have that relationship with him, and it's just a beautiful thing seeing all these stories and how it seemed like they were all, you know, ended up being beneficial to the person that was either doubting or had faith. So that's my takeaway.
Good. Henrik?
So I'm a very logical person. My family hates it because they're just like, there's just no emotion. And so just to see, because I think I even voiced it, that logic and faith cannot occupy the same space at the same time. It's against the law of physics.
I know that line. That's all familiar.
You got that. Yeah. You got that. But it can. As you guys talked about it. So so that was something that was different for me. The conversation was really good. I thought that I actually gained a lot of knowledge from the conversation and changed my perspective of faith and doubt, as Drew had pointed out.
Good. Jerome?
I think the takeaway for me, which comes from one of the last points you made, is about packing light, right? So you might start off on unbelief or even a refusal to believe, and there's doubt in the middle, but you know, you really can't carry that with you on your journey to faith. Sooner or later, you have to just let that go and arrive at a place where there's no doubt.
Mm-hmm. Cliff?
You said packing light?
Yeah, that's another reference. I got it too. And I want to. There's a little high pitch. I heard it. It was in my head.
Henry.
All right, so I'm going to say my takeaways are one, that Jesus protected his disciples from COVID because you know, when they were walking through the fields and eating, you know, they didn't wash their hands. So I'm going to take that away. The second one that I'm going to take away is Jesus dragged Peter back to the boat, halfway drowning. I don't think that's going to ever leave my mind.
100%.
But my main takeaway is that the opposite of faith is certainty, and that statement alone brought a lot of clarity to some things that I need to personally take into perspective in reference to my faith, in learning how to grow my faith, knowing that sometimes it caused me to be mindful that some things that I think are faith have absolutely been certainty in my life. So that's my main takeaway.
Dean?
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't, have all my thoughts together, but yeah, I learned a lot as far as doubt and unbelief and faith and how they're intertwined. I hadn't, looked into that before, so that was good. So I'm still going to be reflecting on it. I also thought about, others, folks in scriptures, and even, my own life as far as how it starts with, the maybe the doubt and transitions, to it transitions, looking at Moses, for example, and others, it starts there, who is this? Who is this God? And then, I think through that relationship, through seeking and coming to know him, it, it goes away to some extent. Even looking at some of Josiah, I believe, in our readings, where he was seeking the Lord at an early age, and seeing how that seeking led to action, led to belief. So some of the things I was kind of thinking about as we were discussing.
Good. Um, when the bishop comes back, hopefully she'll be able to come in before we pray. See she's okay. My takeaway is that continues to be, and I think it's becoming more and more a theme for me, is that he's a good father. It's just I started to see a lot more of his patience with us, his willingness to work with us. Not that these things are acceptable, but even when they're present, he does not take us necessarily to task for them, but as best as he can, best as our expectations and our understanding will allow, he works with us to get us to a better place. And I'm just grateful for that kind of love and care and grace, particularly in my life, for that. Sometimes we could feel like, knowing Z that the doubt is not supposed to be there, we feel bad when it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to see the evidence that even when it is there and he doesn't want it there, he's willing to work with me, and show up when I refuse to believe and say, hey, put your fingers and touch it and try not to doubt. Try not to be unfaith, to unbelieve it. He show up to do that is a big deal for me. So that's my takeaway. Vanessa says, takeaway. He fed 5,000. Why am I asking, doubting how to feed 4,000? Number two, more is expected when we know. That was actually one of the posts today. Now that I know, he expects differently from me. Trying not to mute. Oh, trying not to be mute or become mute, like Zachariah. Okay. But I accept the muting experience to become more faithful. Lorraine adds, this pointed to the necessity of our testimonies and why it strengthens each other. It adds to informing a faith-based logic. Word. All right, guys, I thank you for this conversation. I do miss having multiple things to talk about, but you guys are so I'm bringing these things, and because it's like 2 weeks before we meet again, and there was so much from the last reading that we could have, that we didn't get to get into. And then by the time we get together again, it's gonna be, a whole lot more. But I think this particular topic was meaningful and helpful to solidify some ideas, for life. And that idea of faith and faith and doubt and unbelief and those interrelationships, I think, was a valuable conversation, and I think worth the time that we spent on it. So thank you, Z, for that question. We are on every first.
Henrik is not amused.
We are on every first and third Friday. Next Friday, we have some guys coming from Metropolitan Seventh-day Adventist Church. They are some young adults who have taken time to give back to the youth of the church, and they lead a Sabbath Bible study that I was a part of one time, sat in on one time, and the way that they offered their perspectives, I thought they would make for a good conversation here with us. So I'm not sure how we're going to do it. We might have to combine up something because it's like 3 of them. And as we saw, we didn't get Lauren in today. So we're going to have to figure something out. Trying to get Rusty, Stefan, and Rob in with us next week. So we'll see how that works. Maybe we can get more than one person in the same place and see how that works.
We can leave Z out because she's going to ask a question that it's going to take up the entire.
You're not being very nice to me.
If you're not familiar with us and haven't already, please download the app, read with us, or share it with somebody. If you don't have your own study plan and looking to get into the Word in a meaningful way, in a way that helps you know who God is, understand how He works, this experience has been transformative for us, and that's why we share it in hopes that it can be transformative for you. And so download the app, drink up, drink deeply. Cliff, would you pray for us to close?
Sure. Father, we thank you for your grace, your love and mercy, Father. We thank you once again for being in the midst of our session. Praying that as we depart from each other, we never depart from you. But most of all, Father, we want you to help us remove all doubt and to have faith in you. With all the many experiences that you've given us thus far and the ones that you have planned for us to grow our faith, we ask that we will be a living, active example in that, and that you will use us so that we are not stumbling blocks, but stepping stones to all those that we encounter. Forgive us for our sins. We thank you. We love you. We bless you. For this is our prayer. In your holy name, Yahushua, we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you guys for coming in the room with us, especially Ruben and Drew. We really appreciate you and your perspective and your contribution. May God continue to bless you in your ministry. I have been truly blessed by it. My dad says he's been going to a couple of virtual churches, and there are a couple of sermons that he has experienced. He's like, this guy is bringing, he's bringing it. He's talking the word, what, and I'm like, yeah, I'm on with Ruben and them. That's how I spend my Sabbaths now. So like, you guys are truly a blessing to me. I put you on the TV right there, and I sit on the couch, and then I cast to the TV, and try to sit on the laptop. The kids are running around. They don't always let me hear, but yeah. Your ministry has been a blessing for me. So keep it up, and thank you for being willing to share with us today. Sharika, we're about to tune out. If you're coming back, this is your moment. If you can't, no worries. We'll catch up on the other side.
After.
Huh?
She'll be back after.
All right, cool. No worries. Anything anybody want to say before we close?
It's just been an honor and a blessing being here, man. We appreciate the invite, and I'm gonna definitely start, definitely tuning in, and you see me be probably a lot more in the comments.
Come back, man. Come back.
Yes, and
Let me
Definitely.
you're welcome to come back. We have to schedule it now because we can't just bring everybody in the room. But we're trying to invite people and have them come in the room with us. That's what we're trying to do this year. We're trying to do
You're gonna be one short next time.
I just love these personalities, man.
Don't be late. I'm sorry. That was a joke. I didn't mean that. No, but for real, it's good to have you. I'm grateful for all of you. And till the next time, drink up, drink deeply.